to episode 14 of View from the Sideline podcast. I am Chris and Rich is here.
Hi Chris, good evening.
Good evening, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Good, can't complain. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. What is
Good.
coming up on this week's episode?
So, episode 14, no Premier League games from the weekend. So, we don't have a review this week, but we've got the teaser. We have got the review of League One and League Two because there was matches over the weekend. We're going to talk briefly about England's games over the last week and Rooney's farewell, which we spoke about in length a bit last week. So we're going to touch on that. Special topic this week is around the Premier League and is it really the best league in the world? So plenty of debate and lots of facts I expect in this week's special topic. Summary of the predictions, then we will reveal the answer to this week's teaser, and then we'll let you know what's coming up next week. So I'll get straight into the teaser, Chris.
Yep.
Waste no time on that. So a little bit of pressure on you this week, especially because of last week, me getting it right.
Well, and the week before, because Adam got his right as well. So
yeah, there you go. You're throwing easy ones out, I think.
Yeah.
So my teaser to you this week is, against which country did Wayne Rooney score his 50th England goal to become the country's all-time leading scorer? So against which country did he net his 50th goal, which put him ahead of Bobby Charlton?
A lie. I have no idea.
I'll
have to have a little think about that.
That's a good one.
Yeah,
I actually knew it before I wrote it. I did know that one when I saw the question.
I'll have to try and envisage my football mind.
It's 2015. That's your clue. That's when it was.
I can't remember what happened yesterday, let alone. Anyway, well, speaking of Rooney, what did you make of last Thursday?
I don't think I changed my opinion really. I still couldn't quite get my head around it. I think as far as the game went, I thought it was okay. I thought England put a decent performance in. I'm not sure what sort of threat America were actually going to give, but I thought it gave a few of the fringe players in the squad a chance. When he came on, I've got to admit I did think it would be quite nice if he scored, but I still can't get my head round it, to be honest.
They didn't really do anything after the game for him either, was it? It was like the final whistle went, and then he just kind of went round the pitch, clapped at a few fans, and then that was it. I thought maybe they were going to present him with something,
But they did present him with something at the beginning, I think, before the game. I think Harry Kane did something, and he had he's got 4 boys, hasn't he? I think he had 3 of his sons on the pitch with him, and he did get some sort of
I didn't see that.
Glass.
I saw the very start. It's pretty much about 5 minutes into it, I think. But I thought they actually played quite well on Thursday, even though they didn't have what you would call the strongest side out that they could have put out. Obviously, they were saving that for Sunday, but I thought Sancho played quite well. I thought he was probably the player that stood out the most for me, anyway. But
I thought they played okay. It's just the whole.
I don't think America were that. I don't think they really tested England really at all. I don't think throughout the whole game they had a good spell in the second half, but other than that, it was just another friendly, really, wasn't it?
They're an okay side. I don't think they're much of a match for like the bigger teams in Europe. I think that's why I kind of guess that's why Rooney came out, because it was against the USA and he's playing there now. I'm not sure. Not sure, but yeah, it would have been nice to see him score. But I suppose it's done now, isn't it?
Nearly.
Nearly. But I mean, the 120th cap doesn't sort of push him any closer to. I think Peter Shilton's above him. I think. I'm not sure if Yeah, I mean he's on a round number now. I suppose maybe that was the benefit.
And then
Sunday was a different story though. That was a great game, and success for England to go to.
Yeah, good.
Although I still don't get the format of the
No.
Nations League, but I'm not sure.
I tried reading it. It gave me a headache just reading it. I know that. So they've qualified for like a little tournament next.
Well, they've qualified for the semi-finals.
Yeah, there's only 4 teams in it, Rick, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, well, that's semi-finals, isn't it? 4 teams.
I think Switzerland, Portugal, Holland, and England. I think if you're England, you'd probably be looking at winning that. But
well, they should do.
And I think they also qualify for Euro 2020, but there's like a few it's so complicated. It
is complicated, but then if they qualify, do they still have to go through the group stages?
Yeah,
it seems a bit pointless. It's almost like 10 friendlies.
Yeah, well, they have to do they still do it, and then if they finish second, I don't know how. I would have just thought that all the people that have qualified would just go into a group and just play friendlies. I don't know. I don't know, but it was a good comeback for England. I thought.
No, it was a good win. I think at this point, if anyone does understand the Nations League, please let us know.
Yeah,
because we're struggling.
Message us on something, because I read the official UEFA Nations League website and I read half a page. And I literally couldn't read any more because I was just so confused about the qualification process. But the only thing I was thinking about is if England win the Nations League, is it really like that much of a big deal?
Well, I think it should. I think it has to be.
Do you think it will be, or do you think it's like? Do you think it's going to be third to the other two?
Oh yeah, I mean absolutely. I mean I don't think it's ever going to touch the Euros, and it certainly won't ever touch the World Cup. But I guess a trophy's a trophy. I mean,
yeah, I guess so.
I don't think anyone really expected them to get out of that group. Really,
I suppose, yeah, they have beaten Croatia and Spain, so I suppose you could say Croatia got to the World Cup final and obviously knocked us out of the semi. So you could kind of say.
And France, who won it, they haven't got through. So. Germany came bottom.
That comeback from Holland the other night was pretty good as well.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, but the thing that puzzles me is Scotland, for example. So Scotland won their group, and they have now qualified for a Euro Championships playoff.
Yeah.
So do they still have to go through the qualifications? This is the sort of thing I don't get. If they're guaranteed a playoff place, why bother playing qualifiers? Anyway, I'm not sure. We'll move on.
Yeah. So do you want to go on to the League One summary for the weekend?
Yes. So League One. So Portsmouth still remain 2 points clear at the top, and that's even despite not playing at the weekend. Sunderland are in second, but they could only draw 1-1 at home to Wickham, who are in 15th. Barnsley are in third. They won their third game in a row with a 2-0 away win at Accrington Stanley. Peterborough have now dropped to fourth. So if we go back a few weeks, it was Portsmouth and Peterborough, sort of first and second. But they've dropped to fourth now. They only managed the 1-1 draw at home to bottom of the table Bradford. So I think Peterborough will see that as 2 points dropped. Luton are in fifth after beating Plymouth 5-1, and Charlton are in sixth, but they also didn't play at the weekend. None of the bottom four won. Bradford are bottom, but as mentioned, they did pick up a point away at Peterborough. Wimbledon lost their fifth game in a row. They're now second to bottom. They lost 2-1 away to Doncaster. Plymouth sit in 22nd after their 5-1 defeat at Luton, and Bristol Rovers make up the bottom four after losing 2-1 at home to 17th place Scunthorpe. So it's a bit of a battle at the bottom, that one. As you know, Chris, I like to keep an eye on the form teams in the leagues. To be honest, there aren't many in this league. It's only really Portsmouth, Sunderland and Luton who are all in the top six that are in good form. None of those three have lost in their last 5 games. But apart from that, it's all over the place a bit, really. teams winning one week, then losing the next, then drawing. So it's only the top 6 that are sort of pulling away, really. That's League One.
Okay, so League Two, MK Dons have moved to the top of the league after they beat Macclesfield 2-0. They actually leapfrogged Lincoln, whose game against Yeovil was postponed. Can you guess why it was postponed, Rich?
International call-ups.
Yeah, the 4 players were off again as last time. So so that game. So Yeovil has got 2 games in hand now. So yeah, so the big game.
The playoffs are calling.
Yeah, the big game in League Two this weekend was Newport versus Colchester. Both were in the playoffs before this game, but as Newport came out on top on that one. They won 2-0. So they actually have moved up the table. So they sit in third, and they are third with a -2 goal difference still. So they still have not clawed that goal difference back. Mansfield are 5th after a 1-0 win against Port Vale. Exeter in 6th drew 2-2 with Northampton, and Tranmere are 7th after they lost away by 3-2. So at the bottom, Macclesfield are still bottom after they lost to MK Dons 2-0. Cheltenham are out of the bottom now after an impressive away win, 3-0 against Notts County. So Notts County actually drop into the bottom 2 now. So they're back there. And just one other thing. So Swindon got a new manager last week, Richie Wellens. But he couldn't have asked for a worse start, as he actually lost his first game by 4-0 at home. So that's not how you mean to start your new job.
He's getting sacked. He's getting sacked in the morning.
I can imagine it now at the ground. They were probably, like the away fans would probably say, "You're getting sacked in the morning." He only didn't have the job for 2 days. But other news that's happened in the last 24 hours. Darren Way, the Yeovil manager, has been given a contract extension of 2 years, which hasn't gone down great amongst some Yeovil fans I saw on Twitter. They were not happy about that, but because he actually came out and said the team were in the best place they've been for 5 years. So yeah, it's not gone down very well.
Just what's wrong with that? I know we've probably got loads of Yeovil fans that listen to this, but what's wrong with saying that? Why has that not gone down very well?
I think it's they've been back-to-back relegation. They have struggled in the last 5 years, but I think people do not see him as the manager that's going to move the club forward back up to League One. I think that's what it is. There's another thing as well about the money that's come into the club that's not necessarily being spent in the right areas either. So, yeah, but
the only reason
I think that's what we need at the moment. They need stability. So I'm not really used with it, to be honest with you.
I know we spoke about Yeovil a couple of weeks ago on the podcast, and without running the risk of another goal montage being put in this episode.
Always, the montage is just one click away.
I guess my reason for asking is, I mean, from obviously talking to yourself, Chris, over the last couple of years, etc., they always seem to be flirting with relegation. So, and they seem pretty stable in mid-table this year, and I'm just curious to know why that's a bad thing to say.
Yeah, I think 4 years ago they were playing in the Championship, and I think I think that a lot of fans were expecting a little bit more, too much maybe. I think at the time, and to be fair, I don't think he's personally done that bad of a job. To be honest with you, I thought this. He's probably right in saying that the squad is in the best place, because I think he has brought in the better players than they have done in the last 4 years. So in that way, he is right. But I think when you look at the defeats that they've had this season, I think that's why some people have taken it. Yeah.
Maybe it's just expectations.
Yeah, but
I don't know.
I wouldn't expect too
people
much.
People have got their opinions on it. If they're obviously entitled to have that. I'm not saying whether it's right or wrong. Just curious, Chris. Just showing a bit of interest.
Well, it's quite
in your hometown club.
Quite a short part one, obviously because of the no Premier League review, but we are going to be back in part 2 with our special topic, which is obviously around, is the Premier League the best league in the world? We've got a bit on predictions, the teaser answer, and then what is coming up next week. So yeah, that's the end of part 1.
Hello and welcome back to part 2 of episode 14 of View from the Sideline podcast. So we're going to get on to our special topic now, which is the question of, is the Premier League really the best league in the world? So I'll kick off, Chris, if you don't mind, because I think there's two ways to look at this. I think one aspect of it is pretty easy to answer. I think the other aspect is a lot more difficult. I think there's a lot of pros and cons to saying whether it is the best league in the world. So the first aspect for me is it the most commercially attractive league in the world? And for that, I don't think you can deny that it probably is. There's a really strong case to say the Premier League as a brand worldwide is probably the most attractive league. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. The commercial side of it, when I was looking into this, it was quite staggering at how much more money is invested into the Premier League than any other league in the world. And what surprised me even more is when I looked at the 2016-2017 season of the money that each league was, the revenue that they made, the Premier League was top, almost double what most other leagues were getting. But surprisingly, the league in second that made the second most revenue was the German league, which quite shocked me, really. But I was expecting, with people like Real Madrid and Barcelona in the Spanish league, I was expecting them to be up there, but apparently not.
No, well, I think so. I think if you look at all leagues in all sports across the world, this is a good topic for me because it's just full of interesting stats and facts. so I do like this one. So the Premier League is the 4th highest grossing sports league in the world with regards to revenue, and it's 4th behind only the 3 major
NFL.
North American sports. So NFL, American football, Major League Baseball, and the NBA. So the Premier League sits 4th. So it's just over 5 billion. I think the revenue was in the season that you referred to, 2016-17.
Just under 5.
It's scary, really, when you think about the money that's in the sports in North America, for the Premier League to only be behind the 3 of those. And like you say, I think if you look at the overall league, so I know you said the Bundesliga is second behind the Premier League, but overall in that table it's 6th. So it's the 6th highest grossing sports league in the world.
It's just because I didn't. I know they've got Bayern Munich and Dortmund, but I was just thinking more along the line. When I was looking into it, I was expecting Spain to be right up there with the Premier League. I had a feeling the Premier League would be top, but I didn't expect Spain not to be first or second.
Well, La Liga is 7th, so
Seventh,
just behind the Bundesliga. Then Serie A is 8th, and then the top division in France is the next highest European league in 11th. I think I'm right in saying that La Ligas have slightly restructured their television deal to be more in line with the Premier League, where the money is more evenly split, which I found quite interesting because currently I think it's very top heavy with regards to the TV rights and the revenue that the clubs get. But I have read for next season that they're changing it to, like I say, to be more in line with the Premier League. So it will be a bit of a more even split. But based on that, I don't think there's any denying that the revenue that comes into the Premier League probably does make it the most commercially attractive league in Europe, because all the numbers point to that it is.
And then obviously with that sort of money coming in, I think this is where the second point goes to, is that obviously with that's, like I said, the money coming in for those clubs, they are able to buy, the world's best players. Forget Ronaldo and Messi for now. Obviously they've been split up now, so obviously they're not both in La Liga. But I think the quality of players that are in the Premier League are some of the best players in the world. You've got players like Harry Kane. That pained me to say that.
Best in the world. Best in the world, Chris.
There's no denying that the amount of goals he scored in this actual year, and even last year, he was up there with the best. You've got players like Aguero, basically half the Man City team. But it's the money that they're getting for these things that they're then able to go and buy the best players. When you look abroad, like I said, when you look into Spain, you've got Real Madrid, your Barcelona, your Atletico Madrid. Obviously, Barcelona have got Messi. He's probably one of the most commercial players I think there probably is in the world. But I don't feel that these other leagues in Europe have as many quality players as what the Premier League does. And you look in France, PSG, they've probably got 11 players that are, some of the best in the world. But who else, other than PSG? You had Monaco 2-3 seasons ago, but everyone's seen what's happened to them in this season. They're literally like fighting for relegation. I just don't. So when I looked at it, so you've got in our league, we call it the top 6, don't we? Chelsea, Man United, Man City, Liverpool, Arsenal, Tottenham, in any order. Just because I said Tottenham, I thought of them last. But then you look in the other leagues, Germany, you've probably got Bayern Munich and Dortmund. In Italy, you've got Juventus, possibly Napoli. And then, like I said, in Spain, the Madrids and Barcelona, and in France, PSG. I think that our league is more exciting than the rest as well. When you look at, like we say, the top 6, I think we have the games that are played are probably at a higher level than what most of these teams. Because you see teams like Barcelona playing, some team in Spain that probably would probably get in the championship in our league. But
well, see, I found a really interesting website, and there's a bit of backstory behind this as well. But a website called Sportskeeda. I don't know if you've ever come across it.
I've heard it. Yeah, heard of them.
Yeah. So they did a. I don't think it was a poll, so I don't think it was something where people were voting for it. But they did the top 5 leagues in Europe, but it wasn't just based on finances. So it was based on the level of teams that are in the league, the individual players that are in that league, and also success within European competitions. And I was really surprised at how it came out. So it started at 5 and then went back up. So I wouldn't disagree that these are the the 5 best leagues in Europe, but I'll give them to you in order. So in 5th they had Liga in France. In 4th they had the Bundesliga, and then 3rd was Serie A, and then you're obviously left with the Premier League and La Liga.
Yeah.
And I was absolutely convinced about who number 1 would be, and I was convinced it would be the Premier League, but it's not. They've got the Premier League in 2nd and La Liga as the top league. And I think if you actually drill down a bit deeper, I'm not sure they're wrong, because if you look at, so I agree with what you're saying, Chris, about when the Premier League comes around, when before the season starts in August, there's probably, like you say, let's just say there's the top 6 teams. You pretty much know that one of those 6 is going to win the league, if you agree.
Yeah.
But out of those top 6, you almost know that there's probably there's 1, 2, maybe 3 of them that are actually going to win the league. Because if you put Arsenal and Spurs in the top 6, for example, I mean, as much as I'd love Spurs to win the league, I'm not sure they will. And the way United are at the moment, so let's just say, for argument's sake, it's City, Chelsea, and Liverpool that can win the league. But if you go across the other top leagues in Europe, I don't think there's that much difference. So if you look, so what I did is I looked at all the leagues since the year 2000 and how many different teams had actually won that league. So here's some hardcore stats for you, Chris. So in the Premier League, there's 5 teams since the year 2000 that have won it. In La Liga, there's 4. In Serie A, there's 4 teams that have won it. In the Bundesliga, there's 5. But do you know how many teams in the French league have won the league since the year 2000?
8.
Yeah. You got the same stats as me, haven't you? we should have prepped better. But eight teams. 8 teams in the top league in France have won.
Yeah, I was surprised when I saw that. Because I think you just automatically assume that PSG have been dominating for the last 6-7 years. But I think when you actually look into it, Marseille and Lyon, they, in the 2000s, they were, right up there with PSG. And did has Monaco won the league? I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, Monaco won it quite recently. Yeah, in the last 3 or 4 years. But so I don't know. I think if you took, is there much difference between Man City winning the Premier League or Barcelona winning La Liga or Juve winning Serie A or Bayern winning the Bundesliga? I think there's PSG in Liga is probably slightly different because I think they're head and shoulders above everybody in that league. But I don't actually think there's that much difference.
No.
I think you can say the top 6 have got a chance of winning it, but you almost break that down again, and so you say City, Chelsea, or Liverpool are going to win it. But in Spain, you say Barca, Real Madrid, or Atletico Madrid are going to win it.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to make a comparison to say I agree with you about the players, but I'm sure you've done the same thing. But if you look at the Ballon d'Or winners, in the same sort of time period. So if you look at from 2008, for example, there's only 3 players that have ever finished in the top 3 of the Ballon d'Or vote that play outside of Spain. So in the last 10 years. So Ribéry in 2013, Manuel Neuer in 2014, and then last year Neymar. So apart from those 3, every player in the top 3 last 10 years has played in Spain. And I know it's Messi and Ronaldo, but there's over the last 10 years, there's always been another player who's taken third place, and they've played in Spain.
Crazy, and you look at like, especially like the Champions League over the last sort of like 10 15 years, it is kind of dominated by the Spanish teams.
It is for the teams that have won it, but the Premier League is certainly up there. So three wins for Premier League clubs and 6 runners up since 2000.
Yeah.
So that they are second only to Spain, who have had nine victories and 3 runners up in the same time.
Right. And it's the same, almost the same for the Europa League as well, I believe. So there was like a period, I think 3 years in a row, wasn't it? That Sevilla won 3 Europa Leagues in a row. So that, I think Spain have been sort of the dominating team in like the 2 European competitions. But yeah.
But what do you think it is that keeps top level players? So if you want to put not just in, obviously, because Ronaldo's left now, but you've got Messi in Spain, you've got Ronaldo in Italy, you've got Mbappe and Neymar in France. Why is it you think that these top level players? Because I think you look at someone like Harry Kane, or you look at Hazard, and I don't think you can deny that they're sort of world-class players at the top of their game. But are they in the same bracket as your Messis and your Ronaldos and your Neymars? Why are they not coming to England?
For Neymar and Mbappe, I would say more Neymar at the moment, but I'd say money probably has something to do with it. I think for the amount that they're getting paid in PSG, I don't think probably only Man City that could probably afford their wages, I would have thought, in the Premier League. And as for Messi, I just think he loves Barcelona. I don't think he'd ever leave Barcelona. But yeah, obviously Ronaldo recently moved to Juventus, but I think Ronaldo is very driven by success, and he wants to play in probably all of the top leagues before he retires and wins the league. He probably wants his name in the Guinness Book of Records for person that's won most league titles in different leagues. But
I do still think it's. I think it's especially for Ronaldo, it's still all about the Champions League. But I think let's be honest. I mean, Juventus will probably win that league quite comfortably, but I'm not convinced that Juventus are going to have a. I mean, they've obviously got a chance of winning the Champions League, but I'm not necessarily going to say that they're. Do you know what I mean? They're up there. So I mean, I'm not sure he.
The difference that Ronaldo will have this time round is at Real Madrid he did have, 7 or 8 world class players around him playing, and at Juventus you could probably only say 4 maybe world class players there, and most of them make up their defence. But yeah, I think that's going to be the main difference. I don't think Juventus have a good enough squad to win the Champions League, I wouldn't say at this moment. But obviously, Ronaldo, he's obviously gone there for a reason. He obviously believes he can do it there. So yeah, I'd still love I'd love players like Neymar and Mbappe's probably he's young, he's still got a long time to go yet, but you're going to be talking crazy amounts of money to be getting Neymar and Mbappe in the Premier League.
Well, I think
you're going to be hitting over 200 million to sign one of them now, I would imagine.
Yeah, I just think, well, absolutely. Considering Neymar went to PSG for not that shy of 180, I think it was in the end.
They're not going to take a loss on him, are they? So
no, but I think the whole money thing's a good point. But it's relatively contradictory because the Premier League's the highest grossing league in the world. But I think Pogba is Pogba the highest paid in the Premier League. I think
He
he's
is.
he's
He's up.
there or thereabouts. But
Yeah.
I think I don't know. I'm doing this from memory, so it may not be 100% accurate. But I think Neymar's double what Pogba gets. I think, and Neymar's. I don't think Neymar's like the highest paid in the world.
No.
So I guess that's the gap. So from a Premier League perspective, you'd have to absolutely break any sort of wage structure that you've got, wouldn't you, to kind of get them there, I suppose. And I think Ronaldo and Messi are probably at the wrong end of their careers that you would sort of, well, I don't know. I was going to say that you'd sort of take a punt and put a lot of money into getting them into the league. I'm not sure whether they're at the point in their career where that would make good business sense. Well,
Yeah.
probably would commercially from endorsements and
Yeah,
whatnot.
when you think with Ronaldo as well, I can't remember the exact amount, but when he signed for Juventus, their shirt sales like almost like tripled or quadrupled or something silly like that within like 72 hours of him actually signing for the club. So, and I would have thought it's probably the same for people like Neymar and Mbappe. I would have thought 80% of PSG shirts have got a number on the back. I would more than likely take a guess it's probably one of those two on the back. So
Yeah, I think
this
that
what the clubs they have to think about as well when when they are selling a player, they're not just selling him, they're selling his sort of status, his the things that he can bring to the club money wise. So I think that's I think a lot of of world football now is more money driven than ever.
Do you think something like take Man United for example? So they're not having the best season. Do you think something like that, where you've got such a high profile club globally, and probably, I mean, since the Premier League started, they are probably the shining light of English football, that when they're not doing as well as they have done in the past, do you think that sort of brings the brand? I'm trying to compare it to other teams. I know Real Madrid aren't having a great season in La Liga, but they're always there or thereabouts. Do you know what I mean? So that the top
Yeah.
3 or 4 teams are always consistent. But if you've got someone, the pinnacle, if you like, of English football over the last couple of decades, and they're not performing well, do you think that brings the level of the league down at all?
I would say it probably does, yes, because
Like when Chelsea finished 10th
no,
a couple of seasons ago.
I don't know what you're talking about. I reckon you've written 10 down accidentally. It should have 1 when they won the league. Because obviously with I don't know how much you know about, but obviously with when you qualify for the Champions League and things like that, you get, it's like a point system. I don't know if you've heard about this. Like you get it's like a point. So over your last 5 seasons of how you've been in Europe, then goes towards like classifications for leagues and things like that. So it kind of like varies. Like, so obviously Premier League and Spain are at the top, so they get 4 places in the Champions League. If you've got teams like Man United that don't qualify for Europe, that can have an impact on how many teams in the future that we may be able to get in the Champions League. But it would probably take not just one of the teams, it would probably take at least 2 or 3 of those top 6 to obviously stop dropping out of Europe. Other teams going into Europe, it would, done on a classification sort of thing. But I know that through Football Manager.
I thought you were going to say you know it from Chelsea being in the Europa League.
But yeah, that will harm. It's going to harm them. It's bound to harm them, especially in their pockets. If Man United don't qualify for Champions League, Europa League this season, they financially that is going to hit them in some way. I know that they're probably one of the richest clubs in the world, but it's bound to make a dent. It'll make a dent in their ticket sales, because they won't be having European games. They won't be making any money from those. So I think it
So,
does. I think it does impact
so, so,
overall.
so what do you think from a perspective of saying the Premier League? Where do you stand on it, Chris? First of all, are you agreeing that the Premier League is the best league in the
Yeah,
world?
I agree. At this present time, the Premier League is the best league in the world. I
What
would have
what
said 2, 3 seasons ago, I probably would have said Spain.
what
Um,
makes it the best league in the world for you?
I just think the overall football on the pitch is more attractive than most of the football around the world. I'd say our games are more highly competitive than what they are around the world. I think that the fans as well. I think we've got probably the most passionate fans in the world, and that goes on to when you see like England play in internationals. I think England have one of the best, you know, followings around the world. It's loads, and even the players playing on the pitch, the quality of players in the Premier League is by far the best. I could go on for hours, but yeah,
No, but I don't. I'm going to agree with you.
I'm not bothered about money, to be honest with you. The money side of it doesn't bother me.
No, but I think the money bit is a key part of it,
It
because
is, it is.
I think the fact that the Premier League and the rights to the TV rights to the Premier League are sold to so many different countries around the world tells you that it's the most entertaining league to watch. I mean, I guess we may be slightly biased because for us, we support teams in the Premier League. Watching Premier League football is a lot easier for us than it is watching Italian or German or Dutch football or French football. It's a lot easier for us to watch Premier League, so we're more exposed to it. An aspect of the Premier League that I really enjoy, and I don't really know for sure what it's like in other countries, but it's the analysis, it's the post-match stuff that's done, it's the pre-match build-up, it's all that sort of stuff which I think makes it the most, certainly the most entertaining league to watch. And I think as a sort of combination of the competitiveness of it and the level of players you've got in it. I don't think the best players in the world play in the Premier League, but I think if you were to put a Premier League team together, for example, and play them against a combined team of players from other leagues, I think you'd find much more of a mix within the Premier League side. If you went to Spain, for example, apart from probably Griezmann, the team would be pretty much made up of Real Madrid and Barcelona, if you agree. And I think probably the same in Germany, for example. I think you'd probably be stretched to put someone who wasn't in the Bayern or Dortmund team into their combined team. So I think based on that, I'd probably agree with you. I'd probably say it probably is the best league in the world. So I think that's good news, Chris, that we kind of agree on that one. We're getting used to this. We're getting used to the agreeing on with each other on the topic. But I think that was a good one. That was a good topic to talk
Good
about.
topic.
I think there's lots of factors to take into account when we're making that decision. But
And a million different opinions on this topic as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm not adverse to watching other football across Europe. Not at all. I just you kind of get sucked in by the bigger games. I think like the Barca, Real Madrid, Dortmund, Munich, that sort of thing. But no, good. So we will just move on to predictions quickly. So. Although there was an international break, as we spoke about last week, we did keep predictions in for this week. So it was from the games in League One and League Two. Not a great week for Mike. He got a solitary 5 points, but still doesn't put him bottom, which is a positive. So this week we have Scott as our guest predictor, and it's the return of the Premier League. And we have snuck Spurs Chelsea in, Chris.
Interesting.
I think you've gone for a draw, haven't you?
I went for a draw.
You have no faith. No faith whatsoever. So we've actually got every result covered there. So Chris has gone for a draw. I've gone for a heavy Spurs win, and Scott's gone for a heavy Chelsea win. So one of us will be right. We'll just have to wait and see. So so Jamie still tops the predictions table with his huge score of 30. But it was a low scoring week last week all round. I think you won it, didn't you, Chris, with 15 points?
Yeah, I got 15 points, but I got one spot on and one correct, so it wasn't great. But yeah.
No, it's sort of dropped both of our averages. We're hovering there or thereabouts, but we're nowhere near the top. Every time I see Jamie, actually, he asks me if he's still top. I think he's desperate to get his hands on a trophy. But we'll see how the rest of the season goes. But yes, yeah, so this week we've got a guest predictor, Scott.
So you got the teaser answer, because I think I've been trying to think. I can't think. I'm just gonna say.
Do you know how the goal was scored, Chris?
No. Was it a penalty?
It was a penalty. I'm very surprised you don't remember. That's all I'm giving you.
I'll just say Spain. I can't think of anything else.
No, completely wrong. It was Switzerland.
Nah, it was Spain, mate. It is now.
Oh, are you answering next week's teaser question as Spain? Well, you're wrong. It was Switzerland from the penalty spot.
I'm doing the teaser next week. It will be, how many goals did Chelsea win against Tottenham? How many goals did they score in their win against Tottenham? It'll be an easy one for you. It'll be 4 or 5.
I should know the answer to that.
Anyway, so speaking of the Spurs-Chelsea game, we have had a little discussion about it beforehand, and I think we're going to try and do something after the game where I'm going to record my kind of review of the game straight after the game. I think Rich is going to try and do it his end as well, and then we'll put it into the podcast. Just a brief summary, because I think you'll be able to tell by the tone of our voices whether they've probably won or lost.
I'll be interested in that, Chris, because in the past, whenever Spurs have beat Chelsea, you normally turn your phone off and you are uncontactable.
I'll use the wife's phone if it happens. Yeah, I do. I am one of those people that will just go silent for a day, just because I know it's just painful to see it on all social media, people messaging you, and it's just not worth it, to be honest.
I guess the way we can summarize what's going to be on next week's episode is it will be very, very heavily based on that match. But depending on, it'd be boring if it's a draw, wouldn't it?
If it's a draw, then it will just be a normal podcast.
Yeah.
Normal tone to our voices.
I think a win either way will pretty much take over the podcast from whatever side gets the victory. But it is worth mentioning at this point. So our special topic next week, which is something that is very relevant at the moment. So next week we're going to be talking about the introduction of VAR into the Premier League for next season, and how we think it will change the dynamic of the league, and whether it's a good thing or whether it's a bad thing, and how it's being used in other countries and how it was in the World Cup, etc. So that's obviously based on the announcement last week that the Premier League is planning to introduce it next year.
Maybe.
Well, yeah, but Well, without going into too much detail, obviously, without ruining it next week, I think it takes away a lot of the discussion. I think it takes away a lot of the. If you turn on the radio on a Monday morning, a lot of the sports shows are all about decisions that were made wrong and all the controversies and things like that. And I guess VAR removes an element of that.
Silence.
Yeah, we'll actually have to talk about the way teams played and stuff.
Yeah.
And more stats, I suppose.
Literally. But yeah, so that is everything for this week then. So just one last thing. Obviously, give us a follow on Facebook and a like. Just follow on Twitter and Instagram. Just search View from the Sideline podcast on any of those three, and we'll be at the top. So just and subscribe on YouTube. Leave a comment. Yeah, so that is it from me. So goodbye.
Yeah, and goodbye from me as well. Speak to you next week.